This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
We're working American people a giant tax cut for Christmas. We are giving them a big, beautiful Christmas present in the form of a tremendous tax cut. It will be the biggest cut in the history of our country.
The GOP tax reform plan is out, promising tax breaks for the middle class and a major tax cut to corporate taxes. What is in the fine print, and how will it affect you? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the Republican tax plan in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight with the Suncoast town with a split personality. One area of Longboat Key is in Manatee County. The other is in Sarasota. Now, town leaders want to make the entire community part of Sarasota County. They are starting a push for just that with the county commission. The county lines were drawn long before Longboat Key became a town. The town has 2 separate elections, 2 sheriffs, and 2 different sets of county laws. There is also a discrepancy in taxes. About 4,800 Longboat Key residents are living in Sarasota County, another 2,500 in Manatee.
That 1/3 of our population is paying the $2.6 million a year more than if those properties were in Sarasota County.
The town of Longboat Key will spend the next couple of months gauging the thoughts of its residents. A Hillsborough County man is being charged with murder after his girlfriend's body was found in a burning minivan in Osprey. Michael Clark is being accused of killing Kristen Kelly, arson, tampering, and evidence and possession of cocaine. Deputies say the investigation began October 15th with an accident on I-75, a minivan on fire with a woman dead inside. Clark told deputies he didn't know how the fire started, how the woman died, or how he got to Sarasota. It was found nearby.
Further investigation, we determined that her boyfriend of like 18 years earlier that morning had beat her to death, put her body in the back of his own car, drove it to this area on I-75 in Sarasota County, and then set his own vehicle on fire.
Extremely shocking. I've known Mike for a long time, and it's just not something I would have ever pictured him doing. I know love makes you do kind of crazy things, but this is very out of character for him.
The investigation continues. A huge drug bust in Manatee County. 34-year-old Bradenton resident Thomas DeLandro was arrested last night. Detectives found at least 4 pounds of marijuana and other drugs with a total street value of almost $200,000. DeLandro was charged with possession of marijuana with intent to sell. Detectives are still looking for information regarding a stabbing back in April outside the Bon Bon restaurant and bar lounge. The victim suffered permanent injuries. Sarasota police say 18-year-old Jose Lozada Alvarez is being charged, but are urging more witnesses to come forward. Concern tonight about whether the Northport Fire Department can keep up with the demands of a growing city. Northport's soon-to-be retired fire chief is telling the public not to worry. Plans are well away to expand the department to 6 fire stations over the next 20 years.
You're looking at somewhere near 12 fire stations to cover a city this size, and with that, more than doubling the people that we have on board today.
60,000 people now call Northport home, but it's expected to grow to over 200,000 with the development of the West Villages, where the new Braves spring training stadium is being built. Governor Rick Scott is proposing nearly $200 million for families who adopt children from foster care. The funding would continue post-adoption services for more than 37,000 children. Scott supported investments for the adoption of more than 20,000 children from Florida's welfare and foster care systems. Over the past year, more than 3,600 children were adopted in Florida, the highest numbers in 8 years. The Florida State Senate is looking at new rules after one of its own was forced to resign. Senate President Joe Negron says there will be zero tolerance for policy towards sexual harassment, and he wants to make it easier to report it. Democratic leader Jeff Clemens resigned last week after admitting to having an extramarital affair with a lobbyist. Negron drew fire over the weekend for changing how the Senate handles sexual harassment complaints. The procedure appeared to block victims from lodging complaints with Human Resources.
We want people to feel comfortable to report any type of misconduct in the workplace. It can be done confidentially. It will be investigated, and anyone who is found to be responsible for any type of misconduct, there are consequences.
Under the new rules, workers are supposed to report allegations of sexual harassment to their immediate supervisor, the Senate chief, or the staff for the Senate president. A strong finish for this year's sea turtle nesting season. Over 4,500 nests were recorded on beaches from Longboat Key to Venice. Over 4,400 were laid by threatened loggerhead sea turtles, while 79 were laid by threatened green sea turtles. Although the count didn't surpass the record set in 2016, it was the highest number of green sea turtle nests in 36 years of conservation efforts. Now let's head over to ABC7's Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
Yeah, and Irma kind of spared those nests as a result of the strong east wind offshore as opposed to onshore. Had a little bit onshore after the storm moved to the north, but today not much wind out there at all. The seas were less than 2 feet, calm conditions out on the bay, and beautiful on the bayfront right there. Beautiful sunset too, and it looks as though we will see the same kind of weather continuing, although we started off with 2 record cold temperatures earlier this week, with a record cool high and a record low, and temperature dropped down to 47 degrees on Tuesday. But we are not looking at that now. Temperatures are bouncing back to average or slightly above that, it looks like, as we push through tonight. Dew point temperatures really come up. It's at 63 degrees. North winds at 6. And the pressure 30-11, and that is high. That continues to rise. That's why our skies have been so sunny as of late, a result of that high pressure and very dry air in place right now. The forecast through this evening calling for temperatures to be a little bit warmer than the past couple of nights. Each night we're getting just a little bit warmer, 67 degrees at 11 o'clock under fair skies. And the forecast for lows tonight will be into the mid-50s, or 60s, I should say. Wishful thinking, the mid-50s, and some upper 50s well inland, Mayaca City, also Lakewood Ranch getting close, 62, 64 in Braden, 61 in Parrish, Anna Maria 66, and looks like temperatures will stay pretty warm right through the period. No rainfall to report around. It is dry out there, and that's typical of November. We are anticipating a few showers along the East Coast this weekend, and maybe 1 or 2 of those working their way toward us late in the day. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, though. All
right. Thanks a lot, Bob. Yeah. And still to come, it's out, the Republican tax reform plan, what it means for you, and what chance it has to actually becoming law.
A promise was made. A promise that hit the beaches of Normandy. A vow that captured Iwo Jima. A contract that weathered Tet. A pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq. An IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. The IRS is cracking down on those who owe back taxes. They send out devastating letters, garnish paychecks, and even put liens on your home or business. You may have heard of it. It's called enforced compliance. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists who will negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms and can negotiate a tax settlement with the IRS. It's that simple. And if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars, finally ending your financial stress. Now is the time for a fresh start. Now is the time to call Tax 10,000. 800-699-3188. That's 800-699-3188. Call now.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
Get breaking news alerts focused on the Suncoast. Download the ABC7 News app.
It's out. The long-awaited Republican tax reform plan promising tax breaks for the middle class and a major cut to corporate taxes. What does it mean for you? ABC's Lana Zach has the latest from Washington.
I had an excellent meeting today.
Together with the president, House Republicans celebrated the release of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, saying many Americans will be able to file their taxes on a postcard.
It will be the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country.
Among the major changes, the corporate tax rate will be slashed from 35% to 20%. The standard deduction for middle-class families will roughly double from $12,000 to $24,000 for married couples. And the child tax credit will increase from $1,000 to $1,600.
With this plan, the typical family of four will save $1,182 a year on their taxes.
But there are ways that Americans may be paying more in taxes. Mortgage interest deductions on future home purchases will be capped at $500,000. And state and local tax deductions will be capped at $10,000, which may be a blow to families living in high tax areas. That last point and the price tag on the cuts have some Republicans expressing reservations.
Well, I think over 10 years, we're looking at $1.5 trillion roughly. That's some of the things we got to get our arms around.
Democrats say they're skeptical of a sweeping overhaul written behind closed doors.
They're ashamed of this bill. The Republicans know the more this bill is exposed out there, the less people like it.
The last time tax reform happened, it was a bipartisan effort that took about 2 years to hammer out. But President Trump says he wants this done in about 2 months, calling it a big, beautiful Christmas present. Lana Zach, ABC News, Washington.
We have all sides covered, a Republican, a Democrat, and most importantly, an economist at the trapezoid in a moment.
Attention knee replacement patients. If you had surgery in 2011 or later and needed revision surgery, listen closely. You may be entitled to compensation. The FDA has received numerous reports of early device failure involving certain implants. Examples of device failure include loosening, dislocation, and dissociation or separation of the implant. Symptoms of device failure may include pain, swelling, joint instability, warmth of the joint, inflammation, and redness of the skin. If you had knee replacement surgery in 2011 or later and suffered complications that required additional surgery, you may be entitled to compensation. Even if you're not sure which brand was used in your surgery, you may still be eligible for compensation.
Call Sokolov Law now at 1-800-466-4206 for a free legal consultation. That's 1-800-466-4206. Again, that's 1-800-466-4206. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential. There's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back. How will the GOP tax plan affect you? Well, it depends what part you play in the tale of two suncoasts. Married taxpayers earning $42,000 to $200,000 will have a tax rate of about 25%. Couples earning between $500,000 to $1 million a year will pay almost 40%. Some popular deductions, however, will be out. To middle-class families, like the deduction for medical expenses, student loan interest, tax prep expenses, moving expenses, unreimbursed employee expenses, and lifetime learning credits, employer-provided tax care credits, all out. The property tax deduction is still in, but it will be capped at $10,000 a year, and the estate tax, better known as the death tax, will be phased out. And joining us for more is Rod Thompson, the president of the Sarasota Republican Club, former state representative Keith Fitzgerald, and Michael Snipes, the economics instructor at USF Sarasota Manatee. And Michael, I want to start with you, and I don't know if it's too early to ask this question, but in terms of the impact on the economy, what are you seeing?
Well, it is a little too early to say. I mean, there's still a lot of people, there's still a lot of analysts out there who are still doing a lot of the work and seeing exactly what the numbers are going to shake out to be. But if it does go through in its current form, one of the things that we need to take into account is kind of what does this mean for the entire economy? Because we're proposing all of these tax cuts, but we have to make up for those tax cuts with cuts in other places. Essentially, you have to pay for tax cuts with other tax cuts. And what matters for most people and what matters for the economy is what exactly is getting cut, right? So if we're talking about increasing the standard deduction, which is essentially a kind of a tax cut, or we're talking about cutting corporate tax rates, how much of an effect is that going to have on the average citizen as opposed to the things that we're cutting to pay for those cuts, like some of the things that were proposed?
Rod, I saw a Republican congressman in the story a few minutes ago who noted that under this plan, it adds about $1 trillion to the national debt. I thought you guys were against that.
Yeah, and we go through this every time, too. And the problem is the way that we gauge these things. And as an economist at the table here, I'll wade into it a little bit. But not using dynamic scoring with these sort of things makes no sense to me whatsoever. When you use a static model, thinking that if you cut $1 trillion, that will not affect people's actions in any ways is just not living in the real world. So if it could be gauged with, well, all right, you're cutting $1 trillion, that's keeping $1 trillion in the economy in a market-oriented way. That's going to generate more economic activity. That generates more tax revenue. So in that respect, I don't think that that's probably a good number. In fact, CBO has a pretty good track record of getting a lot of these wrong, and Obamacare wrong. It's just so hard when they're hemmed in by having to measure it in that sort of way.
Keith?
Well, if you actually look at the dynamic scoring, it has been done by some analysts, and it actually shows that it will raise the deficit a little more than a little less. So dynamic scoring makes a lot of sense in some respects, but in this case, it doesn't work out. Look, the whole rationale of this thing is that we'll have sustained 4% growth. We have a declining population, and there is no way that you're going to have 4% growth when one of the major variables is population. So unless our friends on the Republican side want to increase immigration by a huge amount, 4% growth over 10 years is not possible.
Michael, this is an argument that is ages old in terms of whether tax cuts are going to, that it's predictable in terms of what it will do in terms of the growth of the economy. I believe the first George Bush called it voodoo economics. Mm-hmm. Am I correct?
I believe that's correct, yeah. And the whole idea, I mean, it seems relatively straightforward, right? If we cut taxes, then that gives more money to people, gives more money to corporations, then that should get invested back into the economy, and then that reinvestment in the economy grows the economy, and it kind of trickles down. That's
Does it work?
Came from. Historically, there's not a lot of evidence that it has worked. And one thing that we do need to be careful of is that when we say that we're going to be cutting taxes, we need to be clear about what taxes are being cut. Because what tends to happen is we just kind of throw out a blanket statement, we're cutting taxes.
We only have a few seconds left, but I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
If you look at the 60s through the 80s, we didn't have particularly strong economic growth. When you had that 2-year attempt to finally get dramatic tax reform, which this would be the most dramatic since then during the Reagan years, we had sustained growth, obviously with the ups and downs, but we had sustained economic growth at a much higher level. And I think it's hard to say that that had nothing to do with the dramatic tax cuts of the 80s.
Obviously, we are just getting warmed up here. We'll have more on the GOP tax reform plan right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us.
At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and coinsurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans, and prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book and DVD. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. Call 1-855-395-9803. That's 1-855-395-9803 now.
Attention blood thinner users. If your loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. The widely prescribed blood thinners Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to a number of dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, kidney bleeding, stroke, brain hemorrhaging, and even death. If you or a loved one suffered any of these injuries after taking Xarelto or Pradaxa, call right now. You may be owed significant compensation from the manufacturer. Thousands of blood thinner users may have been exposed to serious risk by these dangerous medications. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. Call Nightline Legal to speak with an experienced attorney for a free consultation. If we don't win, there is no fee. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-3987. Again, that's 1-800-554-3987.
Do you need a good laugh? Starting November 1st at the Players Center, everything that can go wrong does go wrong in the smash hit comedy Moon Over Buffalo. This wild Broadway series production shows what happens both on stage and off. Contact the Players at 365-2494 or at theplayers.org. The show must go on with Moon Over Buffalo.
Our conversation on the GOP tax reform plan continues right after we get a check on the first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Photos being sent in, and I appreciate all the people that do this. You know, they send in the pics at mysuncoast.com. This one, Dennis, he's generally a regular contributor from Palmetto, getting that sun setting, and just a few clouds off in the distance. A little bit more cloudiness around today, and that'll be the case, but we're still looking for a lot of sunshine right through the weekend and beyond. So if you have any outdoor plans, it's not to be a problem at all. Maybe an inland shower or two, the possibility thereof, but that would be on Saturday and Sunday. The rain chance really quite small for coastal locations at 10%. Live sweep of all the radars now from Jacksonville down into Miami and Key West. Few showers down in the Florida Straits, but no rain around here, and it will stay that way right through the overnight hours as a result of the dry air in place. And on top of that, we have this high pressure ridge, which is causing sinking air over the top of us. 73 degrees right now, just a few clouds at the airport. The dew point temperature has come up from the earlier numbers on Monday. The dew point temperature was in the 30s, and now the humidity at 71%. Winds are out of the north at 6, and the pressure pretty high, 30-11. That continues to rise at this hour. Well, today we went above average for our high, still below average for our low. This morning we were at 58. Our normal low right around 63 degrees, and we'll be closer to that number tomorrow. And we'll be a little bit above average tomorrow once again. High temperatures are now back to seasonal averages or slightly above that, and typically a very dry month in November is. The forecast for Friday looking really good for Music on Main at Lakewood Ranch, and not a problem there. Just beautiful weather anticipated with sunshine in the morning, just a few clouds in the afternoon. High temperatures near the coast, low 80s. But as I mentioned, near Lakewood Ranch, Wauchula, Arcadia, Palmetto, and also up into Parrish, temperatures right around 84, 85 degrees for highs tomorrow. Well, the low temperatures tonight will be in the low to mid 60s, and then warming up by the afternoon into the low to mid 80s. So the time for the music to start there, Music on Main, looking pretty good at 81 degrees, and skies should be generally clear at that point. Well, the satellite and radar imagery is showing a couple different things here. The satellite and radar over the United States, we have this west to east flow. And typically what that means is zonal flow. There's no big drop in the jet stream at this point. So this flow will continue to bring mainly the stormy weather well to the north of us. There's no big drop in terms of a trough of low pressure developing. That's the situation where we start to see the colder air filter in, but that's not happening right now. And the satellite is showing some snow showers in the western portions of South Dakota. Also in the northern sections of the Rockies, we're getting some snow flurries, if you will, at best, but not a lot of major storms taking place due to that zonal flow. Some showers, some cold rain now up near Detroit and places to the north stretching over to Toronto and near Montreal. Some moderate rainfall there as well. A little bit of rain in upstate New York. Well, temperatures currently into the 30s in places like Minot and Minneapolis at 37 degrees, 68 in Albuquerque, and temperature of 68 as well in the nation's capital, 65 now in Cleveland. You can see that little cold front there. Now Detroit at 60 degrees, but Chicago, a chilly 49, 74 in St. Louis, and still hot in Dallas at 91 degrees. The forecast for boaters tomorrow and for the weekend, northeast winds turn to the north at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be running 2 feet or less with a light chop on the bays and inland waters. The water temperature now 73 degrees. The high tomorrow for beaches right around 80, and the UV index will be high to 12 tomorrow. And the forecast, tides upcoming, 11:40 for a high tide, and another one at 1:06 tomorrow afternoon. Sunset headed at 6:46 after sunrise will be at 7:42. We are looking at generally mostly fair tonight, not as cool. 64 for your low, and east winds at 5-10. There may be a little bit of patchy fog, but not much. Tomorrow looks good, sunshine, ho-hum, beautiful weather, right? 84 degrees, continued mild, northeast winds 5 to 10. And this is the reason why we're all here right now in Florida. Beautiful conditions anticipated for the next 7 days with high temperatures in the low to mid 80s. And with all this great weather around, why not get an extra hour in? That's what we'll do over the weekend as the time change is going to take place Saturday night, Sunday morning. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
Attention! If you had surgery to repair a hernia, listen closely. Ethicon has recalled its PhysioMesh flexible composite mesh after 2 studies showed higher rates of hernias reopening and additional surgeries compared to other meshes. This product may cause severe health problems, including pain, swelling, bowel obstructions, infections, mesh failure, hernia recurrence, and other health issues. If you or a loved one had hernia repair surgery in 2006 or later and suffered complications that required additional surgery, you may be entitled to compensation. Even if you're unsure if PhysioMesh or another brand was used in your surgery, you may still be eligible for compensation.
Call Sokolov Law now at 1-800-273-7215 for a free legal consultation. That's 1-800-273-7215. Again, that's 1-800-273-7215. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? You need the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. A system that cleans practically anything and everything with super absorbent microfiber. Dip it in the washer side and the mess releases into the bucket. Then place it in the dryer side and push on the pedal. You get a clean mop pad that's practically dry and ready for more. And your hands will never again touch a dirty, disgusting mop. The heads are washable and reusable. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our 2-for-1 Pick It Up special and get a second spin mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-394-1524 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call 1-800-394-1524. Call now.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Welcome back. We're talking about the new GOP tax reform plan, and joining us for more is Rod Thompson, the president of the Sarasota Republican Club, former state representative Keith Fitzgerald, and Michael Snipes, an economics instructor at USF Sarasota Manatee. And Keith, I'm going to start with you because the predictions are this tax reform package is going to get very few, if any, Democratic votes. It's hard, you'd be hard pressed to find people out in our community who think that they are paying too much in taxes. So why not do what you can to give families like yours a tax cut?
Well, you have to have the right plan. I mean, I actually agree with that if you have the right plan. This plan is not the right plan. And one of the reasons it's not going to pass is because it blows up the deficit in a gigantic way. And it cannot pass in its present form because of that fact.
Michael, we also saw in the story a little bit early that the typical family, at least what Republicans are saying, will save about $1,100 a year, if not a little bit more. What impact does that have in terms of the economy and the impact in terms of families in general?
I think there's two parts to that. One is, how are you defining a typical family? I mean, are we talking about median income, which is about $45,000? Is that a typical family? Is that who we're calling typical? Are we calling somebody who's earning $75,000? Are they a typical family? So it matters kind of who you're calling typical. And if we're giving $1,000, let's just call it $1,100 to someone who's at the lower income bracket, then that certainly might have an impact on them, but that's going to be very different if you give that same $1,100 to somebody who's earning $75,000. So it matters how you classify things. It matters how you classify people, because that's going to influence how big those returns are.
Right. Rod, make a point, and then I have a question.
I have an objection to the premise that for the $1 trillion deficit hole, because that assumes that we can't and won't cut spending in Washington, D.C. That's probably a safe assumption in a political realm, but there's no reason why that should be the case. For the last 9 years or more, Americans have been living with tightened belts. A lot of middle-class Americans, a lot of Sarasotans have been living on less. And I think a lot of us get frustrated to think that there's no way, apparently, Washington can ever not always have more. Well, yeah, we're going to have deficits at some point if we try and do any tax cuts, if we won't cut spending.
Let me ask you this question, because I went through some of the things that will be going away, and that includes the deductions for student loan interest, tax prep expenses, moving expenses, unreimbursed employee expenses, and alimony. A lot of middle-class, working-class families have looked forward to those deductions to bump up their returns a little bit. What say you?
Well, I mean, okay, that's for those who do a full deduction, and obviously there's plenty of middle-class ones that don't do the full deductions, that take the standard deductions. But for those who use the full deductions and use those sorts of things, that would impact them. But that, as I understand it, is mitigated by other parts of the plan where you have tax cuts that favor those same families. So, you know, you have to take the package as a whole. If you take individual pieces, you're always going to have individual oxes gored. I mean, my gosh, I wouldn't want to be somebody making decent money owning a home in California under this plan, because you'll get crushed. You know, because you're getting rid of the income tax deduction.
Michael, I know you wanted to make a point, and then let's get into the politics of this.
Yeah, well, it really does kind of matter, because if we're planning on paying for a lot of these things, then we have to project into the future 4 years, and that's very difficult to do. And a lot of the tax cuts that are being proposed, you know, we're proposing getting rid of things that really would help middle income class individuals, like student loan interest. That's something that really could make an impact on most people. If we get rid of that, that's something that is going to hurt the people that is at least nominally intended to help.
Keith, let me ask you this, because I have an ongoing conversation with my best friend John about these things, and when the issue of whether or not this would cap contributions to 401ks, in the end, President Trump objected to that. It is not in this plan, so therefore, what's your objection to this?
Well, my objection to this plan is that it doesn't really do anything good. You know, if you're middle class, it really depends what your life circumstances are, whether you're going to win or you're going to lose. Some millions of people win, millions of people lose. What there is no question about is that it represents a major transfer of wealth to the top 1% of the population, and that's not what we need after 30 years of growing inequality. And inequality is It's not, I'm not arguing for leveling or anything for that. It creates substantive problems, including in the economy, because it distorts the way people spend money in ways and tends to sort of cycle.
Rod, short answer, and then I want to take a poll.
Okay. Short answer for what?
When you were bowing your head to what Keith was saying.
I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought there.
Okay. Then when we talk about the politics of this just for one moment, the three of you, raise your hands if you think this tax plan is going to pass as is.
No.
No.
Why?
Okay, it's the dynamics of the Senate. You have a 52-48 Republican. Susan Collins is a liberal, so nothing conservative. That makes it 51-49. You have Rand Paul, who's a conservative libertarian, who's a Puritan about it, which means if it's not pure enough, it won't pass him. That puts it at 50-50. That means the anti-Trump caucus, led by John McCain, can scuttle anything. I don't see any way it gets over 50.
Keith?
Well, some of it has to do with process. I know it's a little boring, but when Rod said government keeps growing, remember a couple of weeks ago they passed a budget, and that budget calls for $1.5 trillion loss in expenditures. But this tax plan, when it's scored, turns out to cost somewhere between $3.5 and $5 trillion over 10 years' time. And under the rules, if you're going to use reconciliation, those numbers have to match. So they're not even in the ballpark, getting close to being able to do it under reconciliation. And that's 50-50. And they're not going to find 61
Michael,
votes.
I'm not going to ask you the political question, but I'm wondering, as an economist, in the community of economists, this has not been scored yet by the Congressional Budget Office. When the last time there was major tax reform in the Reagan era, it was bipartisan, and it took 2 years to accomplish. And the president wants this on his desk by Christmas.
Sure. Yeah, and that's another reason why I think it's unlikely to really gain any real traction and pass anytime soon, because there's not enough time to really go through all of the nuance and all of the economic implications. For a bill of this magnitude, you have to be very careful and deliberate as to what exactly is in there before it gets implemented.
So, gentlemen, what would you say to the vast audience of ours who are watching tonight and say, we want tax cuts, we want the government to stop spending so much money? Here we have an opportunity, and the three of you, Republican, Democrat, and the economists, are saying it's not going to happen right now.
It's not going to happen in this makeup. The only way that happens, in my humble opinion, is more conservative Republicans to be elected, because they're on board with both cutting government and cutting taxes. If you elect Democrats, it will never happen.
Keith?
I have a completely different perspective on this, but it's not on the other end of the spectrum. I think the problem is Congress is broken. It cannot pass a bill like this. And one of the big problems is something that economists call rent seeking. There are so many special interest groups fighting for little goodies in this thing that you're never going to get it. I think we'd probably agree we want a clean, clear, transparent tax code. But going through Congress, Republican or Democrat, that's not going to
I would
happen.
take a postcard
Well, let me
tax
just
code.
ask you this one second, Keith, that if you had the Democratic majority in Congress, and the Democratic president for that matter, would you get a tax reform package?
I'm speaking more as a political scientist and a political guy. The way Congress is presently constituted, I don't think either party can get this done. So you have to change the rules.
Well, that takes the parties to change the rules.
Yeah, but there are huge political implications for the Republicans if nothing gets done, given the fact that we have not passed health care reform. Keith, so what are Republicans like yourself on the Suncoast saying?
Well, the problem is the dynamics that I laid out there. Here's my frustration with it, is that most of the Republicans in both the Senate and the House have actually kept to their promises. But because the margins are so close, it only takes a few that have flipped. That means it looks like all Republicans won't keep their promises, and that's what it looks like.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but we'll be back for final thoughts when we return. Stay with us.
Take the trolley to Siesta Beach for the Crystal Classic Sand Sculpting Festival, November 10th through 13th. See master sand sculptors create works of art. It's family fun with hands-on kids activities, sand sculpting lessons, music, food, a party tent, and more. Visit SiestaKeyCrystalClassic.com.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-683-9262.
Describe a battery or bulb, and Batteries Plus Bulbs will have it. Tell us what's broken on your smartphone, and we'll fix it.
I need a new battery for my phone.
And a new screen.
What did you do?
Visit batteriesplus.com for a store near you.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
When severe weather strikes, trust ABC7 First Alert Weather. We're here for you.
It's bigger and better. The Siesta Key Crystal Classic Sand Sculpting Festival, November 10th through 13th. 24 international artists create massive sand sculptures. Enjoy 4 days and 2 nights with live music, food, a party tent, and more. See siestakeycrystalclassic.com for details.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. Michael, we have a tax reform plan on the table here. The hope is that we could get growth in our country over 3 to 4%. Given what the package is right now and what most people desire in terms of growth, what does an economist say in terms of the answer?
Well, it sounds low. 3 to 4% growth sounds low. But for a country the size of the United States, 3 to 4% growth is actually pretty high. That's a pretty high number. And if you want to accomplish a growth of 3 to 4% for a country like the United States, I don't know if that's necessarily something that can be driven by just tax policy alone.
Keith?
I don't think this is going to pass. I think it is a big problem for Republicans, and when you give one party control of government and they don't really accomplish much of anything except cause a whole bunch of upset because their president doesn't know how to behave like an adult, they're going to pay for it in the polls. So I don't think we're going to get any sensible tax policy, whether you're right or left, liberal or conservative, out of this group. They're the gang that can't shoot straight.
I think you can potentially see 3 to 4% growth, but I think tax reform alone is not enough. I think that's one component. I think another component is deregulation, which some of that can be done in the executive branch.
Are you concerned that you hear a lot of the predictions that the Republican Congress and this Republican president has to pass something?
Right. I mostly hear that out of the pundit class, which we're kind of in right here, and out of the media, and out of those who follow politics closely. I am not sure, I'm not convinced at all, that that's where your average American stands on these things, and the ones that vote, too. So, yes, as a political insider, it really, it worries me that we could get slammed for that, because historically that sort of happened. But I think we are in relatively unhistoric times with this president and this level of division, and I'm not sure that we get our fingers on the pulse of the American people at all like we think we might.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the efforts to build a new stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays have the lowest attendance in baseball, and many blame the low attendance on Tropicana Field. A site in downtown Tampa has been identified as a possible spot for a new stadium. Vicky says no issue with the stadium. If they build a new one, great. If it is an outdoor stadium in this heat, humidity, and thunderstorms, I'm out. Mary says tax dollars should never go towards paying for a new sports stadium. The team owners want a new stadium. Let them pay for it themselves. Apparently Michael agrees with that. And Bob says put the money into the best baseball team and coaching staff possible. Create a solid multi-year winner on the field, and people will come. Selling off players and letting one of the best baseball managers leave the game is not going to bring out the fans. A fantastic new ballpark will only go so far and attract attendance. From Joe Madden, Well, if you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And just a reminder, if you want to stay up to date on the latest breaking and local news and see our alerts on your phone instantly, iPhone and iPad users will need to download our new news app. Just go to the App Store and search for WWSB or My Suncoast. Android users, never mind, you'll just get the new version automatically. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Rod Thompson is the president of the Sarasota Republican Club, former state representative Keith Fitzgerald, and Michael Snipes, an economics instructor at USF Sarasota Manatee. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus the names of some of the victims killed in Manhattan are released, so stay with us.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
Attention blood thinner users. Thousands of blood thinner users may have been exposed to serious risk by these dangerous medications. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. Call Nightline Legal to speak with an experienced attorney for a free consultation. If we don't win, there is no fee. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-3987. Again, that's 1-800-554-3987.
If you're between 50 and 85 years old, call the number on your screen right now for free information on how to save your family thousands of dollars. We're Family Love Plans, and we've been helping families just like yours for over 30 years. The average funeral today can cost up to $10,000 or more, but the most you'll get from government benefits is just $255. How will your family pay the difference? At Family Love Plans, we can help you and your family. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam and your plan can't be canceled. Better still, your rate will never go up and your benefits will never go down. Get your free information about our senior plans. Just answer a few simple questions and receive approval right over the phone.
Call 1-800-707-3608. That's 1-800-707-3608.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Alan, get a look at this. Norm!
Norm!
He just sent this in, that's right. Norm getting a great shot tonight. Sarasota Bay looking out there and a little bit more clouds around. Appreciate that. Norm, a very much regular contributor to some great photos here on the Sun Coast. And Casey Key webcam showing beautiful conditions there as well, looking out over the Gulf of Mexico. And the sun setting already, and looks as though we're going to see not a bad night and not as cool as it has been. I know some people really enjoyed that little cool down. We had a little taste of winter. That is not around now, though. Temperatures are going to stay at or slightly above average over the next several days. Not above average, though, as far as rainfall goes. This is typically a very dry month. We're going to see this east wind continue now. There is a trough of low pressure located to the east of the Bahamas here, which will be moving off to the west, and that will enhance the rain chances along the east coast, but not much chance for us to get that significant rainfall here. And looks like we'll see a few showers down to our south. Currently it's 73, and the dew point is up there too at 63 degrees. Winds are out of the north, light at 6, and they'll start to veer around more to the northeast here over the next couple of hours. The high today was a little bit above average at 83. This morning's low was nice though, wasn't it? 58, 63 is our average. We'll be closer to our average tomorrow morning to start things off. We may see some upper 50s well inland. Rainfall, and it looks like we are going to end the year definitely above average. But so far for the month, it's starting off dry here in November. We'll look for mostly fair skies tomorrow. A few clouds in the afternoon, along with temperatures near the coast into the low 80s. Into the east of I-75, see Lakewood Ranch and Laurel Oak. We have also Waterleaf. Those places we'll see temperatures in the mid-80s for the most part for highs tomorrow. And it looks as though we'll see a nice day, though. Lots of sunshine around and No threat of any significant rainfall here. Maybe a few brief sprinkles or two along the East Coast. I mentioned that weak system coming on board over the weekend. Well, Futurecast will show that. There's that little twist in the atmosphere, if you will. A little line of low pressure kind of opens up a little bit on Friday, but still, as I mentioned, a few showers are possible on the East Coast. It all kind of pinwheels in here along from, say, Jacksonville southward down to the Keys. A chance for a few spotty showers. We're not looking at any kind of rain out, though, so if you have any trip planned along the East Coast, should not be a big problem. Just 1 or 2 lone showers anticipated. We have this west to east wind flow, and this component does not favor any kind of cold air moving southward. We have to have a big trough of low pressure that we saw a few days ago kind of come on down and bring that north wind. But right now what we're seeing is basically this west to east wind, and that's going to continue, it looks like, over the upcoming days with that zonal flow. It looks as though the colder air will stay to the north thereof and the warm temperatures to the south. You can see a little bit of snow flurries now taking place into looks like Wyoming, Montana, stretching down into parts of Colorado. Then rainfall mainly from Michigan on into Toronto, stretching off toward Quebec. And as far as temperatures go, 91 in Dallas right now. That's the current temp. Look at that colder air, though, in Minneapolis, Minot, as well as into Billings. Billings at 29. Look at that big contrast right there. Salt Lake City, 70 degrees. Denver at 44. Well, here's the beach and boating forecast. Northeast winds turn to the north at 5 to 10 knots. A light chop out there. The water temperature 73. UV index will be high, calling for a 12 tomorrow. And the beaches will see a high near 80 degrees. Inland areas a bit warmer. And the high's high coming up at 1140. Sunrise will be at 742. Mostly fair, 64 for your low. And then for tomorrow, look for a lot of sunshine, continued mild conditions, and the extended forecast does call for great weather over the weekend, but temperatures slightly above average. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
If you have Medicare, I have 3 things you'll want to hear. There's an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana. It includes Medicare Part D prescription drug coverage, and it may save you money in so many ways. It's all in this book, and it's yours free just for calling. You'll see all the ways the plan might save you money, even on prescription drugs. In fact, last year, Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan members saved an estimated $6,500 on average on their prescription costs. And you get all this coverage with an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. Even if you've looked at Humana before, you need to take another look at this plan. We'll send you the decision guide absolutely free, in a slightly smaller size, of course. Discover the all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan that could cut your costs and cover your prescriptions. Call 1-800-824-8241 or go to humanabigbook.com. The savings are too big to miss.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Our accredited staff will handle all of the Medicare paperwork for free, and best of all, your brace is shipped directly to your home for free. Don't let chronic lower back pain slow you down. Get moving and stay active with a medical-grade back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost. We also accept Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, Humana, and other insurance. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace covered by Medicare? Find out for free.
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-715-0835. That's 1-800-715-0835, 1-800-715-0835.
Checking primetime headlines, we're learning more about the man who ran down pedestrians in New York City this week and those who died. 8 people were killed, 5 lifelong friends visiting from Argentina to celebrate their 30th graduation from high school. A mother in town from Belgium, And a 23-year-old native New Yorker just starting his career and a man in his 30s biking between meetings during work. ABC's Maggie Rulli has more in New York.
In the aftermath of Tuesday's terror attack, the city is still shaken.
It's pretty scary to think something like that happened near our school.
The suspect barreling down a well-used bike path in Lower Manhattan, a neighborhood filled with families and schools. But the community here is determined to be resilient.
We all decided to wear black to show our support and unity, but we'll get through it.
The streets are back open, and schools, many right next to the terrorist path, are back in session. This is Stuyvesant High School, and right here, less than 50 yards away, is that bike path where many students say they saw the terror unfolding firsthand. The city's mayor stopped by the school today to offer his support for the students.
What is exceptional here is the fact that New Yorkers were undeterred. The message that came through loud and clear here is that everyone had each other's backs.
And the city got a visit from Attorney General Jeff Sessions, making sure New York knows they are not alone.
We're all in it together.
Now, for the first time, we're getting a look at the former life of 29-year-old Saifullah Saipov in Uzbekistan, where he lived before moving to the U.S. in 2010. Most recently, Saipov was living in New Jersey with his wife and 3 children. Saipov is charged with terrorism, and authorities say he has given a full confession. The city seems determined to show its resilience. The memorial here continues to grow, and we've even learned that one of the students who was injured in the attack made it a point to be back at school the very next day. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, New York.
A Colorado man is being charged in connection to a deadly shooting spree at a Walmart. The shooting at the store in Thornton left 2 men and a woman dead. Witnesses say 47-year-old Scott Ostrom walked into the store last evening and nonchalantly began firing a gun. This morning, a SWAT team entered his apartment in Adams County. He was later spotted in a car near the apartment complex and arrested. The former chair of the Democratic National Committee says the fix was in for Hillary Clinton in her race against Bernie Sanders for the nomination. Donna Brazile says the Clinton campaign launched a so-called secret takeover of the DNC, saying she found a document signed by DNC officials in 2015 giving Clinton control of the party's finances, strategy, and money raised. It was signed roughly a year before Clinton actually won the nomination. The wait for the new and latest and greatest iPhone is almost over. The iPhone 10 will be available in Apple stores tomorrow at 8 a.m. It is suggested that you arrive early. The new smartphone has a display that takes up the entire screen, wireless charging, and face scanning technology for unlocking the phone. The iPhone 10 is the most expensive smartphone ever. The starting price, $999. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Coe. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.